4 months ago, I was in the middle of the harshest rota that I've ever worked. I was doing night shifts after night shifts. I had no time to sleep. I was completely burnt out. And I made a decision that didn't really feel real at the time. I decided to pause my medical career and study French in France. And now it's actually happening. I've paused my career. I've finished work and now I'm going. It's a couple of weeks away. The flight is booked, so I'm going to be on that plane. How do I feel about that? So why did I make that decision? Well, let me tell you. Have you seen the TikTok that's like, guys, get ready with me to go, to go. We gotta get out of here. The NHS rota broke me so badly. I had to change time zones. I've got to get out. Okay, all right. This camera is currently balanced on a stack of like 6 books, mic connector that's in the phone, and then that is connected to this mic, which I hope actually works. I think it does. It's got a green light, so that's good. Okay, good. France and learning French is quite a departure from medicine, so how exactly did I get there? I first qualified to be a doctor in 2018 after 5 years of medical school, but languages have always been something that I've loved on the side. I first became obsessed with learning languages when I started learning Spanish during COVID lockdown. You're indoors all day, you've got nothing to do. For me, the thing that kept me sane was spending 6 hours a day just learning about verbs. Yeah, I started with Duolingo and then I moved on to Anki and then I got a tutor and then I'm practicing for several hours every day. And because I could spend so much time on it, I could see such quick progress, although my accent had a lot to answer for. Eventually, I got to the point where I could understand Netflix shows without subtitles, and that was incredible. I'm sure people are very familiar with Money Heist and so on. The first time you can understand a show in another language without subtitles, I can't describe that feeling. I was like, I did that? I can understand this? How is that even possible? It's those little wins that keep you addicted, essentially. You'd think that medical school might be a barrier to language learning because of how busy it is, but in fact it was the opposite. The two work together incredibly. In my 4th year of medical school, I signed up to the Turing scheme, which allowed me to spend 2 months in Madrid working in a hospital. I say working in a hospital. Was I working or was I going out a lot? Showing up to placement 3 days a week. We explored a lot of Madrid and I still look back on that time as one of the best student experiences that I've ever had. And then I went to Peru in my 5th year on my elective placement, which was also incredible. That's when I felt that I could really speak Spanish. So naturally I thought, let's keep going, let's go on to the next one. And what is next? And I chose French. It's something I've always wanted to be able to do. It's such a beautiful sounding language. French culture is so deep with movies and music and food. And I thought, well, I did French to GCSE, so I've got a baseline there. I assumed it would be easy. Because, well, Spanish and French are close, right? Absolutely not. Turns out French is difficult. French is complicated and harder than Spanish. And there are grammar exceptions that just French has much more complex pronunciation. Nasal vowels, silent letters, you can't guess how a word is pronounced just by how it's spelled, which is very frustrating coming from a language like Spanish where you can work all of that out easily just by hearing it or reading it. So learning to get confident in a language like that involves a lot more trial and error and a lot more anxiety. And you know, anxiety comes into this a lot. I have social anxiety and speaking is where I'm struggling. So now when it comes to conversation, I'm so anxious to speak. I feel like my accent is rubbish. There are so many rules of pronunciation. I don't know what I'm pronouncing wrong. So there's a voice inside my head saying your accent is actually terrible, when it's probably okay. I'm scared of this French stereotype of judgmental people who hate the English coming over, destroying their beautiful language. When you order un croissant, s'il vous plaît. When people say, oh, you're learning French, say something in French, I'm like, I just go blank. I can't form a sentence in the way that I can in Spanish. It becomes this loop. I don't speak because I'm scared of sounding bad, and then I sound bad because I don't speak. Although now I can say, qu'est-ce que tu veux? Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je te dise? I like that. I felt like I got more than I bargained for when I started learning. And at this time, I'd started full-time work. So I was learning a harder language with less than half the time to practice. Realistically, all my French learning went out the window. You can build on your level of knowledge if you practice regularly, but if it's once a week, you just feel like you're trying to sustain the same level. It's frustrating. It feels like you're banging your head against a wall and you're getting nowhere. I felt so far away from the level of fluency I'd reached in Spanish, and so I eventually gave up doing regular practice, and I felt like I would just stay at the same level forever. Learning French also messed with my Spanish. When I started out learning French, I assumed it would be a breeze. Initially, however, I just ended up not learning any French and making my Spanish worse. Also, when I started learning, I couldn't help speaking French in a Spanish accent. Still unlearning that. I was confusing myself with similar vocab and very, very similar but different grammar rules. They're similar enough to confuse you, but different enough to completely mess you up. Now I'm worried about losing my Spanish while I focus on French. And I still want to maintain my Spanish, which takes up time. I'm emotionally attached to it, so that adds another layer. Will I lose my fluency in Spanish? It feels like I'm betraying a long-term friend. While I could moan about this, the reality is these frustrations don't discourage me. They just make me more motivated to work them out and solve their mysteries. And it's worth thinking about. If I hear someone speaking with a strong French accent, do I correct them? Do I judge them for speaking with an accent? Matter of fact, am I going to care at all? I'm not going to care in the slightest. There may be snobs out there, but I haven't met them yet, so I shouldn't let that fear stop me from trying to order in French. Let me tell you about work. I became a doctor in 2018 after 5 years of medical school, and I started work literally the week after. The NHS was like, he's qualified, get him in there. Get him in there. We need him. Since then, I've been completing foundation training, which lasts for 2 years, and every 4 months you rotate through a different specialty. I've worked in general surgery, cardiology, A&E. I've done care of the elderly, and I've also worked in a GP practice. The last 6 months of work have been truly insane. I've had the worst rota of my life. Constant night shifts, incredibly understaffed, sometimes working 2 sets of nights in a single month, no proper breaks, just this constant feeling of being on call, with the heaviest caseload of any specialty I've ever worked in. We cover 3 specialties overnight. In theory, you're supposed to work 12 hours with a break, but regularly we're having to work 14-hour shifts straight through with no break, no time to eat, sometimes no time to drink water. There was one shift where I worked for 25 hours in a row because the night doctor couldn't come in for their shift and there was nobody else available. For those who aren't familiar with the NHS, it's grueling work, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, or any other healthcare professional. And despite that, the newspapers like to call us greedy, or my personal favorite, militant, for asking for the same pay we had back in 2008. But that's another story. To any journalist writing an article on greedy doctors, I would invite them to spend a 12-hour surgical on-call shift in A&E and then have to come in again the next day on 6 hours sleep. A lot of people I know are moving to Australia or leaving the profession completely, which on the one hand I find desperately sad, but on the other I can completely understand. It's not weakness. There is something wrong with the system. As well as that, I've desperately missed learning, whether it's about the human body or a new language or anything. But with an antisocial rota, some days all you can do is focus on getting out of bed. I love medicine and I don't want to quit, but I've come to the realization that if I continue on the same rota for another year, then maybe I wouldn't be temporarily stepping away at the end of it. Maybe it would be forever. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep going on like that. So I didn't apply for specialty training. I started doing locum shifts to save up money, and as of yesterday, I am officially unemployed. You know, and at the time when this was in my future, I thought, I need a holiday. God, I need a holiday. But after that holiday, could this be the opportunity that I've been looking for? The chance to finally get the immersion that worked so well for me in Madrid. Being able to spend time in another country immersed in a culture, it allowed me to learn that language so much faster than at home. I came to realize that immersion is the key. So I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I signed up for the intensive course at ILA in Montpellier for 3 months. Regular language teaching, with regular tutor sessions. On top of that, I'll be in a French homestay with a French family. I want to commit. I don't want to just dabble and hope that something sticks. And your brain is plastic while you're young. So the younger you can do it, the better, because it's only going to get harder. I've always been obsessed with learning more about the world and improving my understanding. I've learned to love the feeling of being really uncomfortable and out of my depth. This is exactly that. Sometimes anxiety will say, oh, don't do the thing that will change your life for the better. What if it's a disaster? As it turns out, the only way out is through. I've signed up to do it and it's happening. And I know I'll be so glad that I did. It's gonna get dark outside because I filmed this video too late. This is my first YouTube video. These things happen. My choice to take a career break was deliberate and necessary, but it comes with its own set of worries. Locum shifts are an option for decent money, but you're accepting a level of instability in your income. And sometimes there are no shifts. And when people ask me, so what are you doing now? It's a bit hard to explain. There's also the career side. I'm not applying for specialty training. I'm taking a step off the ladder, and that comes with risk. I ask myself, is all of this insane? Will I fall behind professionally?
Maybe. When will you wear wigs?
At the end of the day, will I be able to do something that I love? Yes. I'll probably come back with more energy and more able to do my job well. I'm fully aware that I'm jumping in at the deep end. This isn't just a course, this is an intensive course for 12 weeks. 5 days a week, homework, speaking practice, tutors. And this isn't like my time in Spain. When I was in Spain, my Spanish was stronger than my French is now. I was living with international students where English was the common language. So I'd always be able to speak it with the people who I was around. This time I'll be living with a French family and usually they won't speak much English. All day, every day, it'll be French, which is exciting, but also very intense. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions. I'm kind of worried my brain is gonna explode, and I'm aware I've just come from the busiest job of my life and I've signed up for a full-time course. Isn't this the intensity I was trying to get away from? My answer to that is there's intensity and there's intensity. Surgical on call? A certain level of intensity is rewarding and gives you energy and makes you motivated to do more. This is a total change of pace, of language, of routine, of culture, of everything. And now I have a partner of 3 years. We'll see each other a couple of times over the 3 months, but I'll really miss her. It's another thing I'm preparing for, being far away from home. And this is the longest I've been away from home. Will I be completely homesick? Have I gone mad? Am I having a breakdown? I don't think so. Well, so here's how I'm tackling it anyway. Anxieties and frustrations about language progression are natural, but at the end of the day, they should never be a reason not to pursue something that you're passionate about. And with anxiety about ability, grammar, pronunciation, progress is progress. It's important to accept it's okay to get things wrong and to go in blind. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to show up. The main thing is reminding myself it doesn't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, while adjusting to life abroad is scary, when it comes to the course, I shouldn't worry at all. It's made for people who are just like me, who want to be better at French. We're all in the same boat. Over the next month, I'm going to be preparing by using Netflix, some French resources, probably watching a lot of 10% on French Netflix. And I'm going to enjoy my time off as well. I've finished my last shift. I don't have to go into work. That's incredible. Oh my God, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Do you know what? It really still hasn't hit. I think I should just order the world's biggest Domino's pizza and watch Doctor Who and just lie in until 11. D'ici un an, peut-être que je pourrai parler en français pour un vidéo. Oh. We'll get there. Okay, so what's next for this channel? I'll be sharing my experience of doing an immersion course, living in France as an English speaker, and what I learned about Montpellier in French. There's a rat outside the window. There's a rat. I've just made direct eye contact with a rat. Something wrong about that. Something wrong. Some twisted. I have loads of video ideas I want to share, particularly about what I'll be doing over the next month to get ready. I'll be making videos about the immersion course, about life in Montpellier, the ups and downs of learning a language abroad, things that work and things that don't. I want this channel to be a place where I document everything, the good days, bad days, the progress, the little wins, everything. It's getting fully dark outside. I didn't plan this through. Anyway, my takeaways from reflecting on this a lot are, if you're taking a big step in language learning, whether that's moving abroad or whether that's signing up to a course, it's totally normal to feel scared and anxious. That's a very normal feeling. And self-doubt on your own learning is normal. In my experience, you've probably learned more than you think. And false confidence goes a long way. If you're one of those people who lets anxiety stop you from doing something, do it anxious. You'll always be glad that you did. And I'm really excited. Honestly, I can't wait. I'll be documenting this journey and sharing everything along the way. So feel free to follow along. If you've ever felt anything similar, learning languages or taking a break in your career, I'd love to hear your experiences. I clearly should have started filming like 3 hours ago. That would have been a much better idea. Unfortunately, I was asleep. Because I had a lie-in until 2. I'd finished my night shifts, so my sleep schedule is still recovering. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is my first ever YouTube video on this channel, so thank you for making it to the end. Hello. Subscribe if you want. Like, I don't care. I'll see you all very soon. Okay.